I save the couples a lot of money by structured organization and also by recommending vendors that really suit to the couple, because they Google, they find number 1, 2, and 3 on page 1 in Google. They might not be the best. They might have the biggest marketing budget. So those vendors you find on the first pages. So I have a big network and I know vendors you wouldn't even find on Instagram because they don't have time for Instagram. It's tough to say these days, but there are photographers who are not really have an Instagram profile or Facebook profile. So, but they do great work. So why not recommend those? And they might be a lot cheaper than others, and they really suit to this couple.
Hi guys, welcome to the Weddings Exposed podcast, the first podcast for the brides and for the wedding industry professionals.
We are Alexa Geibel and Kirill Brusilovsky, fine art wedding photographers from North Germany.
In our podcast, we are going to give many tips for the brides how to organize your dream wedding.
Our idea is to bring wedding industry professionals and wedding clients closer together and make them understand each other better.
We want to share experiences and learn from each other.
And now, let's rock and roll. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next episode of Weddings Exposed. Today, we have Melanie Goldberg as a guest. She is a wedding planner from Hamburg, Germany. In the recent Vogue, she and her agency were mentioned as top 10 wedding planners in Germany. So welcome, Melanie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Please, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your wedding planning agency, about yourself, how everything started?
Yes, I started my agency in 2003, so almost 17 years ago this year. And actually, I was one of the first ones in Hamburg starting a business as a wedding planner. And my motivation back then was, to fill a gap in the market. I had some experience in event management, and after my studies, I wanted to go into the agency business and the event business. But I thought, there are so many normal event agencies already, and I wanted to do something new. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, hey, there are no wedding planners in Germany, so why not give it a try? And actually, it worked out really well. Yes. And I'm specialized in individual weddings only. So I have no packages. I think a wedding is as special and as individual as the couples are. So you cannot do any standard packages. You need to work very individually and talk to the clients before you can make a quote or before you can send any offers from your side. Very often couples send me an email and they are like, hey, we want to get married. What are the costs? How much do you cost? And I guess I don't know. I don't know what you need. I don't know what you want. So let's have a talk together. Let's sit together and go through the details. And afterwards, I can tell you how we would work together and what the costs would be. So that's very important for me to be individual. And apart from Northern Germany, which is my main region, I also do destination weddings all over the globe, Caribbean, Mexico, Florida, but also in Europe, in Italy, Portugal, and Malta. So all those countries where it's easy to get legally married as well, not only for the symbolic ceremonies, but also to get legally married. That's why I limited the destinations a bit to that and don't do it everywhere. So that's it in the nutshell, what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Cool. How many weddings do you usually have in 1 year?
There's a pre-kids time and an after my kids time. So before I had my kids, it was about 40 to 50 a year, only in Hamburg and Northern Germany, plus 20 to 30 abroad. So wow. That was what I did. And I have to say my destination weddings are small. It's usually only the couples traveling or with their witnesses or very small circles. So it's not a big wedding I do abroad. So I'm not traveling with them. So that's why I can do it in that number. And so that I did for more than 10 years. I had 40 to 50 weddings a year. Then I had my 2 kids. 2014 was my busiest year with 48 weddings, and I was highly pregnant. So it was a tough year, but it was a very successful year as well. And after that, I decided to cut it a little bit down and to focus more on family. And now I'm doing 20 to 30. So I'm starting again to increase the number again, but I also try to focus more on bigger weddings and less. And I want to do less. So maybe 20, 25 is a good average for me to handle with 2 kids.
Okay, so personally, you see, it seems that as an agency, you are quite busy. You have mentioned that back 2003, there were quite a few or practically no professional wedding planners. Now the situation has obviously changed, but I still have an impression that in Germany, it is much less popular to get a wedding planner than, for example, in the United States and in the other countries. Why do you think it is so? And what is your vision of the current situation?
My vision back then and still is to do this pioneer work to make it more established in Germany and to get the people, to feel more confident to hire a wedding planner. Like I always say it's like any other service you can book. I can book a painter and he can paint my walls and he will done it faster and better than I would do it myself, or I can do it myself. So it's pretty much the same. And I want the people or the couples to have the same understanding that it's not only a luxury thing to have a wedding planner, or like, this is only for the high society. It's something everybody should have and everybody can have. And there's a wedding planner for each client. I always say, like, everybody has his concept and his philosophy. And so that's my mission, more or less. And it's hard to say why the Germans are more, how would you put it, more zurückhaltend, reserved. Yes, that's what I was looking for. The Germans are more reserved and more conservative and more like, no, we've always done it ourselves. The parents say, like, no, we've always done it within our family. And why do you need somebody who helps you? But I have to say, over the years, you can definitely say there's the understanding for it increased a lot. Like, it's not only, the couples, they don't have time, they don't have ideas, they don't have the network, and they're like, hey, we need help. And it's getting more and more natural for the couples, but it's still not there where they are in the States. In the States, it's more or less like, they look at you, what? You don't have a wedding planner? It's the same as you don't have a therapist. So it's more or less the same in the States. And the Germans are a little more conservative, I would say.
But do you think it's changing with the years? Like you say, because people, they want more and more to have a wedding planner. Is it correct? So it's like...
Yes, definitely. And my business went through the ceiling very quickly. Like in 2006, I was already living from it. So I cannot really say it got more because my average was still high right in the beginning. But what I can definitely say is that it's becoming more and more individual, and the couples want it more special, and they have a different focus on how important this day is. So in my early years, it was more, it's mean to say standard weddings, but you probably know what I mean. Now with all the blogs, with all like Instagram, Facebook, all social media, it got a lot different. Pinterest, like 15 years ago, Pinterest didn't exist. So there's a completely different picture on weddings now. And we are getting all those trends from the States and other countries. And this is what has changed, definitely. So it's maybe not the number of couples who hire a wedding planner, but also, the expectation on the weddings has changed a lot.
Are the clients now more demanding as back in the days?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe you can say that.
So, considering that it is still not as popular as in some other places, and perhaps many people yet do not understand the necessity, why should they hire somebody and for what? So let's describe, in which terms do you offer support for the bride couples? What kind of tasks do you undertake?
Well, in a nutshell, it is like I save them precious time, costs, and nerves. So that's like in one sentence. And the time factor is very important. Like my couples are usually both working. They don't have much time. In bigger cities like Hamburg or other metropoles, there's also the factor that couples don't come from here. So they don't know the area. They don't have a network. They don't have their closest friends from earlier times. They don't have their families around. So it's a lot harder to plan a family event like this. And so they don't know the area. They don't have the time, with both working usually from 9 to 6 in the evening. And so wedding planning is always in the free time or on the weekends. And it's hard to organize a wedding in the evenings and on the weekends. And also the couples, they totally underestimate the cost usually. So, and in a city like Hamburg, where there's an like a huge offer, like you have like this huge market, you have so many venues, you have so many vendors, you have so many like photographers, DJs, florists, whatever. There's such a selection, such a huge selection, that it's really hard to know who's the best for us and is the price reasonable, and how do we know what else there comes. We get a quote from the location, and then it's like, okay, this is 10,000 euros for the location only. How much more do we need to have the whole wedding? And this is what couples really underestimate. And often couples approach me and they said like, okay, we started with our wedding planning, but it is an endless thing, and we can't go through this alone, and we want help from now on. Because
is there some common main problem, or the biggest problem, where at the point when they say, no, we've come to a dead end here, we've already started, but we need a professional help from then on?
It's like, no, like maybe 50% of my couples have already started, and the others are like, they got engaged and they're like, okay, we need help. So of course you can't hinder them from Googling venues and starting a little research. And many brides come, when in our first meeting they come and they already have their Pinterest board, which is built up for a couple of months or years even, and they're like, okay, I do have a certain idea in my head, but I don't know how to realize this.
Is it actually a good thing for you when the couples, they come prepared, when they have a few ideas, like from Pinterest? Because for us wedding photographers, we don't really enjoy it that much. You know, when the couples, they come like with 100 wedding pictures and we have to copy them, it's not a really enjoyable feeling. What about you, the wedding planners? Do you enjoy it when the couples, they have an idea what kind of flowers they would like to have, like what kind of colors, color palettes? Or do you say, no, I would like to just, like make a decision myself and just give some advice for the couples? How does it work for you?
It does help if they have some ideas, but sometimes it's hard. If in my first meeting with them, I always play, hey, you name it, and we try to arrange it, and I let them talk, and I won't interrupt them. So they are building their little castle, and they are building their little ideas, and they have their pictures in their minds, and it's my job to interpret this and to make this reality by telling them, okay, this is what you want, this is what there is, and let's find the compromise that matches both, like reality and dream. And sometimes I have to disillusionate my couples, and they say, what you want really doesn't work in Northern Germany. You want this white Ibiza style wedding, being outside, eating outside, having dinner outside. This doesn't work in Germany. And they're like, okay, yeah, right. Yeah, you're maybe right. And then we try to, like, it's a process. So you try to get as close to what they wanted, and to move them in their heads. I prepare them very sensitively to what there is, because in our first meeting, I already have my ideas in my mind, what venues would suit to them. So I let them talk, I listen, and I'm like, okay, this would fit. And then I'm trying to ask questions, directing them indirectly, like subconsciously, to the direction I want them to have. When it comes to the theme, let's say, or to the overall concept. And when it comes to flowers and colors, and of course, I like to see Pinterest boards and to get an idea of what they want. What makes it hard is when they have like 10 different styles. Like, I like this, I like this, I like this, and this is blue, pink, and yellow. And like, okay, how do we get this into one concept? So this is when I say like, hey, let's check, let's find the venue first. Let's see what works with this venue and go from there. So yeah, sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder. Every bride is different. So
I actually experience quite often the problem that many couples just cannot articulate what they want. They have some ideas in their mind that it has to be a fairy tale, but it's very, very hard to put it in words. And sometimes they say one thing and have completely different thing in their mind. So you really probably have to guide them as a wedding planner too.
Definitely. And when it's like this, I try to get out of them what they don't like. I asked them, hey, what weddings have you been to? Which of your friends has gotten married? And how did they get married? What did you like about their wedding? What didn't you like? And what did you like not? And this is how I try to get what they really want, and by what they don't want. So sometimes that's an approach that works as well.
And do you have a picture of your ideal client in mind? Do you attract a certain type of clients?
It's hard to say. I was actually recently thinking about it, if I have this prototype of my favorite client, and I cannot really say that. Of course, it's clients with a reasonable budget. whatever that means. It's always depending on what they want. So I wouldn't say, hey, under 10,000 euro, I wouldn't start. I cannot say this, because if it's only like an elopement and they want a special day, then it's more than enough. And but when they are like having 100 guests and they say we can't spend more than 20,000, then okay, sorry, but this doesn't work. And so it's hard to say, but I can't really say I have a particular client for me. No.
So you actually see the necessity of a professional wedding planner really for almost everybody. I was surprised that you are booked even for elopements, because I really thought, okay, when there are just two people, there is not really much to plan. Really
no,
surprised.
But the elopements I do, the couples are not from Hamburg, so they don't know the area, they don't know the city, they don't know the vendors. Of course, it's faster to organize, but for them it's a big help. So I do it quite often, actually. For like the last 2 years, I get, actually even now I get requests for weddings within this year still from couples from middle Germany or southern Germany. And yeah, it's becoming more and more fashionable that the couples escape from their home city to avoid the big party and just sneak away and have their dream wedding with the two of them. Yeah. Yes, but I would say it's that's what I would say. A wedding planner is for everybody. So everybody should have a wedding planner. That's the mission. And how you get married and for how much, that's individual. So that's depends on the couple. So and even couples with a smaller budget, I would say, like, hey, especially you need somebody who guides you through this, because I know how hard it is to organize a dream wedding with a limited budget. It's harder than to organize a wedding with an unlimited budget, of course, because you really have to know, okay, who's my perfect vendor who fits into this budget, and which location can I book? And this is a lot harder when you have a limited budget to know how to invest your money.
So you really mean seriously that you are saving money, that actually that even if they come to you and have to pay you extra, in the end, some budget sensitive couples could really save money and get, in the end, pay less or pay the same amount of money for a better overall service and experience?
Okay, this depends. Like if they are really, really limited in their budget, they cannot get the full service from a professional wedding planner. But you can book consulting hours, for example. Like you can have somebody who looks over your budget, who gives you some advice how to read the contracts correctly, how to like avoid mistakes. So if you have a really limited budget, you have to do a lot yourself, but you can also get the advice from the professionals, and the bigger your budget is, the more service you can book, of course. And yes, I say that I save the couples a lot of money by structured organization. Like I'm doing it like step by step, and I'm starting at the beginning and not at the end. It sounds funny, but I have had clients who have sent out their save the date cards before they hired me, and we didn't even have a venue. So like, okay, no, we have to print it all over again. So that was a waste of money. So small part, but it adds up, you know. And so by structured planning, starting from the beginning, and also by recommending vendors that really suit to the couple, because they find number 1, 2, and 3 on page 1 in Google. They might not be the best. They might have the biggest marketing budget. So those vendors you find on the first pages. So I have a big network, and I know vendors you wouldn't even find on Instagram because they don't have time for Instagram. It's tough to say these days, but there are photographers who are not really have an Instagram profile or Facebook profile. So, but they do great work. So why not recommend those? And they might be a lot cheaper than others, and they really suit to this couple. And by this, I can save them a lot of money. I don't charge any commission. So whenever a vendor gives me some commission, I hand it forward to my couples. Bridal stores, 10% at a bridal store is quite a bit of money. Yeah. Some jewelers give me 10%. So this adds up, and also by good consultancy, I can save a lot of money. My favorite example is I had a couple that wanted to get married in a venue, and they had certain package deals at this venue, like 5 different arrangements, and number 5 was of course the most expensive one. They decided for number 5 because there were long drinks and cocktails included. And then we went through the single cost, and it was okay, but the long drinks and cocktails is limited from 9 p.m. to midnight. Your guest won't start drinking before 11 p.m. With your time schedule, the bar won't be really frequented before 11 p.m. So 2 hours was a waste of time. And furthermore, in this arrangement, there was finger food and something else I don't remember, but the finger food we didn't need because we had the cake in the afternoon. So I said, like, hey, let's take arrangement number 1 and book all the other things you wanted from arrangement number 5 extra. It saved €50 per person with 120 guests.
Wow.
So only by calculating like this. And the couples don't see this. They see the packages and they're like, okay, this we want, yeah, this we might not need, but we really want this. And they don't think of booking individual services because the locations always want to sell the big package, right? Mm-hmm. So, and by this kind of consultancy, I can save the couples a lot of money.
And how do you think me as a couple, because we would like to make this podcast also valuable for the couples, for the brides. Mm-hmm. So I would like to talk with you, maybe can you give us some tips? How should I find the wedding planner which is actually right for me? Because as you say, in Hamburg, there are so many photographers, so many wedding planners. How can I decide in this kind of market situation who is the right, for my needs, for my budget, and for my personality? How do I find actually the wedding planner?
You need to meet them in person, or at least have a Skype conversation or Zoom or whatever there is. Like, you cannot send out a mass email to 5 wedding planners, send like a standard email and expect all wedding planners to respond to you and send you a quote. Like, you should really meet that person in person, your future wedding planner, like they always do with a photographer, with a DJ, and with a celebrant. So the chemistry must work. Like, you really need to trust this person, and you really need to have a really good feeling with this person. And this you can only make out if you meet in person and talk.
And do I need to have a certain budget in mind as a bride before I start my search for a wedding planner?
The budget for just the wedding planner, or for the wedding?
Just for the wedding in general.
For the wedding in general, in bigger cities like Hamburg, it starts at 30,000, I would say. But it really depends on the number of guests. Like, the average is between 30 and 50,000 euro. There's, of course, higher.
How many guests? I'm sorry, just to be precise. So,
like, for 30,000, around 70, 80. Yeah. So that's the average. But it always depends. It really depends on what you want. But this is where it normally starts. And of course, the sky is the limit. So it can be a lot higher, of course.
Okay, so just a little bit back to the previous topic. So you are offering support in putting together the best professionals for the money and probably developing the overall concept. What kind of support are you offering for the couple on the wedding day? Are you normally present there? And what do you usually do at that day?
Yes, I'm normally present there with a team of 2. That's my minimum standard, because even for small weddings with 30 people only, we are 2, because when there's something going wrong, one person has to deal with that, and the other person has to smile and make sure the rest works smoothly. So we are always there with the team of 2 minimum or more, depending on the number of guests. And we normally start like 3 hours before the ceremony. Then we prepare like the ceremony. We check the setup in the church or for the ceremony spot. We set the tables with like table place cards and name tags and whatever there is. We do small decoration works. I'm not a wedding designer, I have to point out here. I'm a wedding planner, so I'm not just doing this overall decorational.
It's good that you mentioned
concept.
That, because I've heard that some planners actually they come out from the designing industry or decoration, and this is their main basis.
Yes, but that's not, I'm not specialized on that. That's not my focus. So I manage the event, I'm not the designer. So, and in earlier times, I used to be on the wedding day for 12 hours minimum. I never came home before midnight. I always waited until the first dance was over and the party was starting. And when there were any contributions of the guests, like speeches or games or whatever there sometimes is, speeches, there are always speeches, but there are not that often games and stuff. But sometimes it takes a while, and I wait until the last contribution is over, and that can be 2 a.m. Now I try to limit it down to 8 hours at site, and they can book extra hours if needed. So normally I start like 2 to 3 hours before the ceremony, and then leave when dinner has started, more or less. And my job is that the couple can really relax and know that everything is working out, and they don't have to worry about anything. They can take care of the guests. They can be celebrated. They can celebrate themselves. And if I wasn't there, if I wasn't there, they would be the main contact person for service manager and for all vendors, and everybody who has a question would go to the couple. And that's what I am. Why I am there. People come to me when there's something going wrong or something not working according to plan. They won't notice because I'm their backup. They know that they have me, and if there's something in the background not working so smoothly, the couple won't notice and the guest won't notice. That's the most important thing.
Just a short one for the time topic. Our clients very often underestimate actually how much overall time we need to spend for a single wedding. We photographers especially, of course, have this topic, but it looks like that the time you actually have to invest for a single wedding just before the wedding, not just during the wedding, is also quite big. Can you just mention, for example, a typical wedding, say 80 persons, not a small one, and they book full service, full support. How much time do you and your team also have to invest on this wedding?
It really depends. It's something between 50 and 100 hours, and sometimes more, of course. Like if it's like a 3-day event, Friday get together, Saturday the wedding, Sunday a brunch, and maybe it's an off location like the private garden or so, then it's of course more. Then it's rather 100 to 150 hours. And but the average wedding, I try to keep it between 50 and 80 hours actually. 50 and 80 hours. Yes.
I'm also curious to know your opinion about 2 days weddings, because sometimes I offer to my clients like 2 days photo shoots, because I'm like a photographer. I love couple photo shoots. I love bridal photo shoots. It's maybe my Russian background. We love all these pretty things, beautiful dresses, makeup, hair. And I offer to my clients to have a bridal photo shoot on one day before the wedding, and we also do the couple photo shoots, and then we have the actual wedding. What is your opinion about that? Because my clients, they actually love it, because then we have all the time in the world. We can travel to different places. We can enjoy the time. There is no stress that the guests are going to come. So I'm really curious just to know, what are your thoughts? Is it the right thing to do it? Or do you think maybe it's just too much for the couple?
It depends on the couples. There are lots of couples who love to have that pictures taken. So if that's the case, I would definitely agree that you should spread it over more days than just the wedding day, because then you would leave your guests for too long. So if the photos are really important to the couples, they should have a pre-wedding shooting, they should have an after-wedding shooting, and maybe even the photos before the ceremony. That sometimes is really a good idea because they are more relaxed. And but it really depends on the couples. It doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, of course.
Let me put it straight. So you, as a wedding planner, on the other hand, have no problem that if you are planning a day, if a photographer would need, say 2 hours just for a wedding couple photo shoot. Can you also be with this kind of plan? Because, for example, for me, on the contrary, it's quite important to make portraits on the day. And I'm trying to persuade the couples because of the special mood. But of course, you have to make compromises because it all goes at the cost of the overall wedding day and the program if you need this much time just with the couple alone. So what is your own attitude?
Yeah, that's true. My personal opinion is that I like the portrait photos better when they were taken after the I do's, because the couples are more relaxed and more like, like the
but
pressure
on the same
is gone.
day or on the different day?
On the same day, yes. But because I just said like, hey, why not take the photos before the ceremony? Then you have more time. Personally, I like the photos better when they have said their I do's, because they are more like, we did it, yay, and you have a different smile and a different sparkle in your face and in your eyes. But for some weddings, it works better if you have the portraits before the ceremony, because you have more time. But it really depends on what time you set your ceremony. So it's something you have to talk about. I wouldn't agree like okay, if there is a wedding planner and a photographer, we should all three talk, I would say, like, because if the vendors make their own time schedule and everybody has a different time schedule, then it gets complicated. So we should all agree on something and see how it works out in the end. So if they need 2 hours for the photos, then we should think about the perfect time of the ceremony, and it can work perfectly well if the guests come from abroad, they have a hotel room, they need to get changed for the evening. So we have a break for everybody, and then the couple can sneak away for the photos. It's a completely different thing than if everybody's from the same city and everybody is waiting when the party is finally starting. So it really depends on the couple, on the party itself, and the whole schedule.
Yeah, and I think it also depends if you have a wedding planner or not, because what I usually experience, like if we have a couple photo shoot just after the ceremony, the couple is so stressed out because, like you say, the guests are waiting, like the couple is stressing out if the wedding cake is going to be there, if the DJ has arrived. So like there are so many questions going on and so many problems which they need to solve in those like 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And then it's really hard for them to enjoy the photo shoot, to smile. I'm like jumping around, show me some love. And they're like, no, we need to go back. Yes. That's why actually I think also I fully agree with you. The couples, they need a wedding planner, because then you can just leave the day, you can enjoy it, you can just be present, and then you can show your love and affection to each other. Because that's why.
Definitely. And I still, even if I'm there, or even when I'm there, the couples are like, oh, are you sure we can leave our guests for so long for the photos? And shouldn't we be here? Shouldn't we do this? And like, don't worry about it. And they come to me and they're like, can we do a few more photos? The sun is so nice right now. I say, yes, it's your wedding day. You make the rules. It's your wedding day. And I make sure that everybody is on time. So I will tell the kitchen and tell them, hey, the dinner is postponed for half an hour or something like that. So I'll take care of it. Like, you enjoy your day, you enjoy your photo shooting. All I need to know, we need to talk. Like, just let me know. Or the photographer usually tells me, hey, we need a little longer. Then I'm okay. I know I can keep the guests busy, and I can talk to the other vendors involved. So communication is the big word here. Yes.
Yeah, and I think also it's really important for the couple, as you say, just to enjoy, because it's their day. Not to think too much about the guests, because I think guests, they understand. I mean, they do understand you need to have beautiful pictures. And I think many couples, they just put too much pressure on themselves.
Definitely. And actually, I even tell my couples, hey, if you leave for 1 hour, they won't notice. They won't even notice. They are busy talking. They haven't seen each other in so long. And they enjoy mingling. They enjoy having the scenery. They've never been to this venue. They're enjoying beautiful weather and champagne and live music. And don't worry about the guests. They won't even notice you're gone. And in no time, you're back. So, yeah, definitely.
Just give them enough drinks. I always say, like, give them enough.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And,
if we're talking about the wedding photographers, the couple photo shoot, do you maybe have some tips for the wedding photographers? Because for sure you've seen our colleagues doing some horrible things. Like, what kind of advice would you give to the wedding photographers? What to do, what not to do?
That's a trick question, because when I'm involved, I work with professionals, so I don't experience any bad photographer work or something like that. All I can say is, like, I've seen or I hear from other couples or from my couples that they say, oh, my friend made this mistake, or my friend made that mistake, or the photos turned out horribly. But then I only can say, like, hey, but my photographers don't work like that. It's the same like with a DJ. I hear them horror stories from DJs, and I'm like, oh, what kind of DJs do you know? I don't know those kinds of DJs. But tips, how to find the perfect photographer, or how to make your life, or like the collaboration between wedding planner and photographer more
no, I was actually curious to know some horrible stories, maybe what you've seen, what the photographers did, but you don't have those kind of stories. So yeah, I guess.
I do have some. Like, okay, there are some photographers who think they are the most important people on the day, and if they don't get that certain shot, his work of art is destroyed. So sometimes you have like those kind of divas in
that's a very good example, actually.
True, yeah.
And sometimes you have like those kind of divas in the industry.
But talking about the couples, I experience it quite often that there are actually some common mistakes couples or brides can do on the wedding day, actually. Perhaps you could talk about that. You are experiencing many weddings, many couples. You are doing everything so that they can be relaxed and the wedding day goes smooth. But I guess here you definitely should have experienced some troubles time to time, and perhaps some of them are common, and we could perhaps prevent our future brides or your future clients from making them. Just some common things.
Common things, not particular photographers and the work of vendors. No. First of all, the most important thing is to to plan the day really well. Lots of couples think their wedding day has 48 hours, which is not not the truth. And I had a couple years ago, and they came to me. A lot of things were already planned, and then they wanted to go from there and get some help. And they were like, yeah, our church ceremony is at 12 noon. And then the reception is at 1, but the church and the venue were 1 hour apart. So I was like, okay, but when does your ceremony take place? Like, your ceremony must be 5 minutes. If you want to be on place A at noon and on place B at 1 o'clock, you don't have a ceremony. So things like that. And they want to put too much into the day, and they think dinner is over by 9 o'clock in the evening, which is mostly not the case. And they're like, yeah, okay, we can invite extra guests for the party. So we invited them for 8:30. I was like, what? Well, you just finished your first course of your dinner meal by that time. So no, don't invite them before 11 o'clock. So stuff like that. So they just don't know how much things take. They don't know how long it takes for the hair and makeup. They don't know about the photo shooting, how much time they should plan into it. They don't know how long dinner takes. So this is something that I see really often, that they just don't know how full this day already is with like the standard events, like with the main events of the day, like the getting ready, the ceremony, the reception, dinner. So those are like those happenings every wedding has. And they just don't know how much time to plan for this. And
since we're talking about the planning, I have another example, and perhaps we could hear your opinion on that. Some weddings are really well planned on paper. Let's say a wedding is well planned, and I have experienced many brides insisting or being much worried that they follow the plan very exactly. And sometimes I experience it as a mistake, because I think that as long as the flow goes, as you have the right flow, you don't have to stick to the plan that precisely. Actually, I think that the plan is there just to make you relaxed, that you know what happens, what is happening, and what will happen, and know what to do. But if something goes not 100% according to the plan, but everybody is happy, then it is still fine.
I totally agree. Before the weddings, like 1 to 2 weeks before the weddings, I sent out my itineraries for every vendor and also the couple. And I always say that, and everybody gets a personalized version of this. So the DJ doesn't need to know when the hairstyling is taking place and the other way around. And the couple gets a plan with all details, except for surprises and what there might be. But I always tell them this is only to give you security and to make you more relaxed. And I add like certain things only the couple should know: who to pay on the wedding day and how much money they should provide, like because certain vendors are being paid in cash or something like that. So I put this so they have like a to-do list, like the week before the wedding. Oh yeah, we can't forget. We have to bring the rings. We have to bring our IDs for this civil wedding and stuff. But I always tell them, please leave this schedule at home. Don't bring it with you on the wedding day. Don't learn it by heart. Don't follow it. And some brides are really like checking my plan and like, are you sure this shouldn't be 5 minutes earlier or later? I said, don't worry about it. This is just a rough schedule. This is for everybody to be on the same page, let's say. And on the wedding day, I'm the timekeeper. I'm the one who is taking care of the event for everything to go smoothly. And I like to collect clocks and cell phones, watches and cell phones from my couples actually, so that they don't check the time. They just go with the flow.
Cool idea.
And then I say, hey, and of course we said like dinner starts at 6:30, and if it's like 7 o'clock because it was so nice outside and you took so many photos and you talked to your guests, then it's 7 o'clock. So we are flexible. We can manage to work around this. So it's a rough schedule, I tell them, and to have something to talk about, to work with. But on the wedding day, I totally agree. We should go with the flow.
What do you actually think about the phone off weddings? Because I hear it's
the what?
Phone off weddings, like no cameras, no cell phones for the guests. Because I see it now as a trend. For example, in UK, it's quite a trend these days. That because for sure we all experience this situation. The bride, she comes with the father, and then all the guests are like in front of the photographer taking pictures. And then of course it's just stressful situation for the photographers. And what do you think about this trend? Would you recommend it to the couples just to maybe write an invitation to the guests, like leave your phones at home, put it off, not to take the hobby cameras with you because you have a photographer, you have a videographer, and then just enjoy the day and let your guests enjoy this day?
I definitely recommend to have unplugged weddings because, like you said, the guests, they jump in front of the professional photographer and try to get the best shot, and then the photographers, they're like, sorry, I couldn't take those pictures. And I always say to my couples, you don't want photos of your guests with a camera in the face. Like if you have a ceremony, everybody has the cell phone in the face. It's not a nice photo. So I would definitely recommend to leave the phones off, at least during the ceremony. Yes, you can try to write it in the invitation, but people will forget. People won't remember, and everybody has a cell phone these days. So, like 10 years ago, not everybody had a smartphone, so you had to bring a camera, a digital camera. This has changed, and so it's hard to forbid the people to take out their cell phones. But at least for the ceremony, the celebrant or priest can say in the beginning, "Hey, please." Take away your phones, please focus on the ceremony, please be with the couple and enjoy the moment, and don't enjoy it through the lens. So,
I'm very glad that we are all common on this topic.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And I always feel bad when I try to sneak a snapshot. If I want to take my own pictures, I'm like always, okay, I really feel bad if I take out my cell phone now. So I always sneak it and have it on my hip and try to make at least it's more like a few snapshots.
I think it's okay when you do it, because for sure you don't go just in front of the couple, because I experienced once one wedding, it was in Lübeck, and there were so many hobby photographers and also guests with the cameras, guests with the cell phones. It was horrible. Like I just had to find my way, to the couple. I couldn't see the couple anymore. So that's why actually also...
Yes, and then you don't want to be impolite and be rude to the guests. You have to smile and be nice, and it's really hard. But this is something when I'm involved that I would go to the guests and ask them politely, hey, could you please, the couple doesn't want this, could you please respect this wish and take away your cell phone? So.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't want to interrupt the ceremony, because sometimes the hobby photographer is just, in the middle of the ceremony in the church to go in front of the couple. And then, of course, you don't want to be loud, you don't want to be rude. But then it's a really difficult situation to work at, of course, for the photographer.
Yes, that's why I would recommend that the priest or celebrant says a few words in the beginning before the ceremony starts, and then everybody knows and hopefully feels bad if he breaks the rule.
Yeah.
How quickly would you expect to get the photos from the photographers you are working with, or how quickly do they have to deliver the post-processed photos to the couple?
It's really hard to say. It really depends on the season the wedding was taken. In the main season, of course, it takes longer. If there's a wedding in wintertime, it might go faster usually. I would say it starts at 4 weeks and goes up to 3 months. And I think it shouldn't be longer than 3 months.
Definitely.
Lots of photographers are happy when the couple is gone on their honeymoon for a while. So it gives them a little more time. But it's something between 1 and 3 months, and hardly ever faster. So that's the average, I would say, and it's okay. And I always tell the couple, so hey, anticipation is the nicest thing. And they, after the wedding, they always go back to their normal lives, and they either are on their honeymoons, but when they return, they have to go back to work, and they have to like unwrap all the gifts, and they look through the cards, and so I keep them busy with those things. And then and when you're done with that, then the photos come, then you can relive this whole thing again, and so you have more from your post-wedding feelings if you wait for the photos a little longer, and then you can relive this all over again.
I have another general question. So I guess you are working very individually, but still there are some or many common things. If you are experiencing dozens of weddings, some things are definitely common. Is there any universal recipe or secret for a good wedding party which works always, like some special ingredients which are always necessary when you are planning a good wedding party?
It's all about the couple, like the atmosphere and the mood the couple is is sending out, that's what comes back. And if the couple is stressed and tense, the guests will feel this. So the more relaxed the couple is, especially the bride mostly, the better the party can be. So it really depends on the signals you're sending out, and this is what you're getting back, I would say.
That's of course right. I was just I was thinking about something more particular, like say, you know what, if you are taking I don't know, like balloons or whatever, that's the wrong example, then it always like makes a great impression on the guests, and that's really a good investment. Okay, this one is really
it's a really bad example.
You mustn't be a balloon fan, and me not either, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Trick which like doesn't cost perhaps a really impressive investment like fireworks, but still works amazing all the time, and all guests are glad.
Actually, no, I don't have this kind of recipe. I used to say, like, when it's a small party, like 30, 40 guests, maybe 50, and the couple is not really the dancing people, and the guest might not be either, a photo box is always working. It's people taking snapshots.
Right? I would agree.
That's all, and I mean, it's been a trend for a few years now. You cannot even call it a trend anymore. It's a must-have, more or less. And there are different variations of photo boxes now. And this is actually something that always works when your guests won't be dancing that much. And that's one of the things.
I even think photo booth is good always, even if you have dancing guests. It's always
because it's not everybody's on the dance floor at the same time. So this is something that actually always works.
I also have a question. Where do you think couples can save money? For example, if you have a couple, they don't have a big budget, they don't have, let's say, 50,000 euros to spend, what they can avoid? Maybe it's, I don't know, photographer. I hope not a photographer, but
No, definitely not the photographer.
No. Maybe like the fireworks. What would you recommend to these kind of people? They would like to have a dream wedding, but the budget is not there.
Yes, then of course you have to scratch those extras off the list, like the fireworks or like the harbor boat trip on the Elbe River or other rivers, or maybe not the live band in the evening. But if you really want live music, then have it for the ceremony, but not open end at the party. And you probably have to do more yourself, although I always warn about it. If you're not really handy, then you should leave it to the professionals. Otherwise, it can look really horrible. Yes, but you really have to make a priority list, I would say. And then see, like, okay, what is a really must-have? Like, if you're like, photos are very important to me and a very personal ceremony is important to me, then don't save on photographer and celebrant, and try to compromise on other things, like have less flowers or have like cheaper invitation cards. There are so many online printers now. You can have cheaper invitations to save some money. So I always look at the whole, and I don't pick like this and this and this. This is what I try to do with my couples all the time, and not to pick single things, but look at the whole to say, okay, we spend this much on this part. Now we have left this budget. What do we get for this?
And who do you think, like, who is important? Do you think the makeup artist is important? What would you recommend? What kind of, I don't know the right word in English, Dienstleister? Like vendors whom actually couples should hire? Like maybe DJs, makeup artists, photographers, videographers, or do you think it just should be the full package?
Videographer is not that popular in Germany, I have to say. Like hardly any of my weddings or my couples have hire a videographer. This is usually an add-on if there's still money left in the budget. Photographer is a must-have, and a good celebrant is usually also a must-have, and hair and makeup as well. Some brides do it themselves. I always tell them, hey, let yourself be pampered that day, and you will have a bad hair day that day. You can be sure on that. So have a professional help you. Sometimes they do have professionals in their family or among their friends, so then there's nothing against this, of course. But I also try to recommend that they're not hiring their friends and be their friends.
That's a very important and very good one.
Yes,
just don't let your friends be friends. Don't overuse them for the wedding day.
Don't make them slaves, because definitely, if my best friend, it's always the witnesses, like the maid of honor, best men who have like the longest to-do list, and like those are your best friends. You don't want to do this to them. You want to celebrate with them. You want them to celebrate you. You want to drink with them. If they have such a long to-do list, and they will be totally stressed out, and they can't enjoy the day, and so you can't enjoy the day.
So important, really.
Yes, definitely. So I always say, book the professionals for the most important parts, And my experience is whenever they say in the beginning, no, we don't need a photographer, our friend's friend or whatever is taking quite good photos, he can do this, and then they have a celebrant among their friends all of a sudden, and to 99% those people cancel the last minute. I've always asked, like 2 weeks before the weddings, our photographer friend, he cannot make it anymore. So do you have
a very,
one?
very common story, right?
Very, very common. And I always have a backup plan in my head when they tell me stories like that. I had the same thing. The couple said, no, we don't need a professional celebrant. We have a really nice friend, and he can hold speeches very well, and he likes to do this. And I was in touch with him actually, and he asked me for advice what to put in the ceremony. I was like, okay, this is like, okay, I can give you some tips, but I'm not telling you everything. And for that, I work with my professional celebrants. And only like a month or 2 months ago, the bride called me. She was in tears, not only because of the current situation, but their celebrant, he canceled. He said, like, I underestimated the work and the pressure and the responsibility I have with that. And of course, I could recommend a professional celebrant. But for me, it's always harder if I have to work last minute, because then, of course, I cannot present those who I would have presented in the first place, because they will all be booked out. So I always recommend hire professionals and save money in other parts.
Yeah,
really good tips. We were talking about the trends. One was named is elopement. I haven't experienced that 10 years ago. Well, frankly, I haven't heard about it 10 years ago. What perhaps there are some other trends you've spotted, especially during the last few years?
The weddings became smaller, like the wedding parties. It used to be like 70, 80, 90 guests. And then I had a few years with like 30, 40, but for the same budget. So they spent as much money. They had the same focus on quality and on special things. But the number of guests was limited. They really wanted their closest circle. And now it's getting a little bigger again, I have to say. So that was a change, that they wanted less, they wanted the same quality or higher quality, and with a smaller number of people actually. Yeah. And that was one of the trends. And other trends, there's still the trend to have like the symbolic wedding ceremony. So but still the relation church wedding, symbolic wedding is still the same. And so that's, at least among my couples, I cannot really see, like, I only do like 20, 30 weddings. So I cannot say this is a trend, only like 1 year is like this, the next year is like that. So it's really
hard. One comes to my mind is a change in clothing. Because there were earlier days, the clothing standards were very official. The dress should have been white, and the bridegroom should buy a certain kind of a groom dress. I've seen it very often. And during the last years, I've seen more original styling of brides and bridegrooms at my weddings. I don't know. Can you confirm that?
No, not really. But the trend in the last years was definitely the vintage style, of course, which developed into the boho style. But actually, for this year, I cannot say there's any trend at all. Like, I think every wedding is completely different. Like, of course, you always have like this industrial chic or urban weddings, but there's also, every wedding is different. So I cannot even say I have two of the same style in this year. So it's getting more individual, even maybe by not following any trends.
Great. I have one question to you about photographers, because like with photographers, many of us, we would love to work with the wedding planners. That's why I'm really curious to know, how should photographers approach the German wedding planners? Can we just simply write to you, send the work? Are you actually interested to hear from the photographers? Or do you think usually the German wedding planners, they have like a certain network of photographers and it's not really important to hear from us?
I wouldn't say that. Of course, we should all be open to increase our network and even change from like every now and then to mix it and to get fresh ideas and fresh people in the network. But actually, I get really applications from photographer, and sometimes like one every day. So this is just too much. I cannot answer this all. There are just so many on the market, and they are really applying for working with me, and like I'm sorry, but my network is never full. It's unlimited, but still, I have, of course, my certain vendors I like to work with, and if they don't have time, I ask the next one, and if they don't have time, I ask the next one. So it's really hard to get into a network of an established wedding planner who has the network. But I would never say never, and what's really important is that the photographer comes from the same region. I get so many applications from photographers from Munich, from Moscow, from all over the world. And yeah, I really like to enter the German market. And yeah, that's good for you, but sorry, I'm working in Hamburg in northern Germany, and chances are really low that I can get you a job here because I have photographers in Hamburg. Why? How can I possibly explain it to my couples that we need this photographer from Munich or Moscow or wherever?
But how do you work on the destination weddings? Do you take your photographers from Hamburg, for example, to some far islands, or are you working then with local photographers there?
Local. All vendors are local. As I said in the beginning, my destination weddings are really small. So, and I'm not even flying there. So I have local vendors for that.
So how do you manage actually to organize them being remote?
I have a partner at site. I have a very good network, and I know them all in person. So I really selected my partners well, and I know all the beaches I'm recommending. I know all the spots and venues, so I really know what I'm talking about. But I have my partners I trust at site to do the day of management. Yes, but I'm the contact person for the couples beforehand in German. They really want somebody to trust. They want to sign a German contract. They don't want to sign any English contracts normally. And they feel better if they have a contact person until the day they leave the country. And they have then again, they have this schedule from me with all names, all phone numbers, like emergency numbers. And they can always contact me if there's something on their way they want to change. That happens. And we can manage. And I'm on a day-to-day, base with my partners, and they report to me right after the wedding, so it works really well.
How do you actually market yourself for the destination weddings? Do you do any specific ads campaigns for Facebook or Instagram, or do you just receive the requests from the couples from Germany, from Hamburg?
I'm the official partner of TUI Cruises, so I do all the destination weddings in combination with the cruises from TUI. So this is, they marketed for me. They have my website on their website. So they link me, and that's the easiest. And over that, couples who Google and they check, okay, TUI is doing destination weddings, but we don't want to go with TUI Cruises. We want to go with a different cruise ship or individual journey. Then they contact me through this site. And travel agencies, they have me on their list as well. So that's the easiest for me. I try to market it more by having an extra Instagram account, extra Facebook page, but it's a little abandoned, I have to say. So I have to work on it more. Yeah. So I could do more. The potential is there, but lack of time actually to do more than I'm already doing.
Yeah, I could maybe tell you, it's like off camera now, I could tell you a few tips and tricks how to market, because okay. I run some Facebook ads for Switzerland, for example. Also for Denmark, it works pretty well if you target it really specifically. So that could be
Facebook ads are really, really working well if you know how to do it. Yeah. That's true.
I have also an optional and perhaps a little bit less expected one. So if it just comes to your mind, we've been talking very seriously, and we want to be a little bit more fun. So my next question would be if you might think out of some story, some fun story or a touching story. You've experienced so many weddings, but perhaps when you think back 10 years, 15 years back, some story which comes immediately to your mind, which you would like to share.
Or some horror stories.
It could be positive, it could be negative, it could be some drama or melodramatic, something with a good end or bad end, whatever.
Oh, it's really hard to say because I've been asked this question so many times, and it's like, I wrote a book and it was published in 2011 and it has all my anecdotes until then. So, but I tend to forget now, but because I think the thing is, the weirdest questions or requests for my couples, I never consider them weird anymore. That's something. Like, I'm always so pragmatic, and I'm automatically in this action mode. I had a groom who wanted a Jeopard, and they had the wedding in their own garden with a big tent, and he was like, yeah, but my future wife, she likes Jeopard so much. And I was like, okay. And first thing, and I didn't really think of how strange this is. I was like, okay, let's try to make this work. Let's check it out if it could work. In the end, we never had a jeopard on because he wanted her to pet it and to like, you know, and feed it. And I was like, no, we need a cage and we need like a guide and a guard and everything. And we was like, well, okay, no, this is no fun, then let's leave it out. But in moments like that, I'm not even thinking about it, how strange this request is. I'm like, okay, let's see if we can make it work.
And what was the most challenging wedding you've experienced during your whole career? I mean, challenging not in the sense of tough clients. Some clients are really hard to work with, psychologically well known, but just in general, some really challenging tasks, something where you really had to work hard on something which you've never done before, and which is still present in your memories.
Yeah, the most challenging things are when they are really unforeseen. Like, I'm good at improvising. I always have a plan B and a plan C in my head, but something that's really coming unexpectedly. Like, I had a wedding and the father of the bride died in the morning of the wedding day. He died. He had a heart attack, something like that. So this is something you cannot foresee, you cannot expect, you cannot prepare for.
So what do you do?
We made it a small wedding with the guests who had already arrived, that were actually the closest family. And they had a church wedding, including the baptism of the little son, and the priest was luckily an uncle. He was a real priest, and so they could have a really, really personal ceremony, not focusing on that, but including it. So and he did a really, really good job on that. And we canceled the music in the evening, of course. We had only a third of the guests there, so the venue was too big. So with decoration, we limited like a room and made it appear smaller. And they had a cozy family dinner in the end, without dancing, without much laughter, of course. But they did celebrate somehow. And
but you still could save the wedding.
Yes, we saved the wedding. We didn't have to cancel anything, but that day, of course, you have to call everybody and cancel for the guests. You have to let the guests know, and this is not something you let the bride do. So you get the phone list and you tell people, and this is something you cannot be prepared for. And or also natural things, like natural catastrophes, like in 2011 or 12 it was, I think, when the ash cloud was around and planes couldn't go.
One you cannot pronounce, right? But
yes, something like that. And we had a wedding with actually a Russian couple, and they lived in Helsinki and Moscow, and the guests were flying in from those two cities into Hamburg, and they were supposed to fly into Hamburg and they couldn't. And luckily the groom arrived the day before, because otherwise even the groom couldn't have arrived. And out of 40 guests, we had 12, and we had the Elb Lounge exclusively, and we had to make it a really special day with like 12 guests only, and had to make it a blast. And stuff like that. This is challenging, definitely. And I have to say, even after 17 years, there's always something unpredictable. Small things, like things you can handle and things you can work around with, and things everybody else is not noticing. But there's always something that keeps you on your toes and keeps you down to earth, that you're not like, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, I know it all. It's always, you always have to focus. You always have to be on the spot and be fully focused. Otherwise, you can lose the whole thing.
It's really cool that after 17 years, you have so much energy, positive energy, and willing to do that. It's cool.
Yeah, I cannot imagine doing anything else, I have to say.
Good to hear that.
Yeah, that's really amazing if you enjoy your job. I have a business question, if that's okay, guys, because we don't have so much time left. I just would like to ask you what kind of maybe marketing channels do you use? Because these days we have so many platforms, like some photographers, they use only Twitter. Somehow they get the clients, some photographers, they use TikTok, for example. I'm just curious to know, what about you? Like, what actually does work for you the best? Is it Google? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Or is it a little bit of both, of all of them?
I like to say it's a bit of both. Like in former times when there was no social media, then it was the big fairs or conferences and print ads. And now it's all digital, of course, and it's more social media. For me, it's my website, which is listed in Google very well without any ads. So just by SEO. And I do Facebook and Instagram I tend to say I'm too old for Instagram, but then I realize I'm actually not. My target group is the age I want. So I'm like, okay, it does work somehow. I thought Instagram was a lot younger than I thought, but apparently it works. But I don't know if I get any clients by Instagram or Facebook per se, because even if I think of asking my clients, how did you find me? Most say either Google or I don't remember. So, and of course, word of mouth. After all those years, it's a lot of word of mouth. Yes.
I also have one for the business. So considering the current stand of wedding planner market, do you see it currently as saturated or even oversaturated, as in the case of photographers, for example? Or is there still a lot of space there for everyone? Are you wedding planners in Germany? Do you see each other as competitors or as colleagues? How is the situation?
The market has filled up, definitely, and it's hard to say if it's saturated. It really depends on the city and the region you're in. Like the bigger cities can, of course, handle more than the smaller villages, and there's a come and go. So you see wedding planners who are there for 1 year, 2 year, huge marketing campaigns on social media, and then after 2 years they are gone. So it's really there are not so many who are really persistent and who have like the endurance to stay on the market. So it's a really up and down, and there are lots of wedding planners or so-called wedding planners who are also celebrants, also singers, also whatever else, decorators and interior designers, and who are not wedding planners as their main profession. So that you always have to see. And so really professional wedding planners as a main business without any other extra jobs, there are not so many in Germany, I would say. So there's still room for that. And we got together as an association, Bund Deutsche Hochzeitsplaner. I'm actually the vice president now since January. And we found this association in 2007. It was a long process of founding this association. And we are approximately 25 wedding planners who are professional wedding planners as a main business. Of course, over the years, some left, some came new. Now we are really increasing again and leaving the association for private reason mostly. And we see each other as colleagues, definitely. So we're on eye level, and we really profit from the exchange and working together and collaborating together.
So as a vice president of the Wedding Planner Association of Germany and as a market veteran, could you give a few short hints to your fellow colleagues, perhaps a newer generation of wedding planners who are starting or who have started a few years ago? What could you give them on the way out of your long experience?
Find your own USP. That's don't go with the flow. Don't copy other people. Don't imitate. Find your own message. Find your own thing. You might have a hand for decoration. You might be a good speaker. You might be this and that. Then you can, of course, integrate this into your work. I know graphic designers who are wedding planners. Of course, they can be the graphic designer for their couples. That's perfect. But focus on on your strength, and don't try to be everything in one person, and make a decision. If you like singing, be a singer. If you like planning, be a planner, but don't be both, and especially not for the same couple. Don't be the celebrant and then step aside and sing the song. It's weird. And be persistent, be resourceful, be persistent, don't give up. There's always ups and downs when you're self-employed, and try to be nachhaltig.
Consistent?
Yeah, try to be consistent and see the long run. Don't try to make the fast money with weddings. You won't. And the success doesn't come overnight. So you need a long breath. You need you really need to be persistent and resistant to survive on this market, especially over the years with so many newcomers on the market. You need to be better than them. When I started, I could do pioneer work because there were hardly any wedding planners. I got requests from couples from Munich because there wasn't such a thing like Google. Google was a mess. And I got a couple emails from couples from Munich, and it's okay, but I'm in Hamburg. And now it's well sorted. and try to be your own brand, and don't copy, be yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a great advice for all of the wedding industry and vendors, also for the photographers as well. Just be persistent, be consistent.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Okay, so Melanie, thank you really. Thanks a lot for sharing your experience. And I think that we've heard really valuable tips, both for the brides and some tips really valuable also for our colleagues from the industry. Thank you very much for your time and for being with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was really nice talking to you. We learned many new things today. It was really a pleasure to meet you today. Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you as well.